Sika exclusive.
Hello guys, this is Young Sika, your humble host, and here I am again for another interview on Sip to the Script. And today we have someone with a really fiery opinion, someone that has ruffled a lot of feathers. I'll let you introduce yourself, please.
Hello, my name's Fatima, but I go by SealNation. No government names, you know. I basically run my own website, Cityinthree, and then aside from that, you know, I've dabbled a little bit in the YouTube world. But my main focus is blogging. But you can find me on IG and Twitter, SealNation.
Trust that we'll definitely go through that during that interview because I feel like you've brought something to the table in Ottawa that, I mean, like on the mainstream level of things is really, you know what I mean? People have an attention span to that, you know what I mean? But it's just, I feel like, just like what we're doing, it's something that really didn't really have attention like that in Ottawa. So thank you very much for what you brought to the table.
No.
Really, thank you very much. But before we dive right into this interview, I have a question.
Yeah.
Please tell me, what did you pick as your poison today? Cause
well, I chose some Jack Daniel's honey. I'm not a light colored drinker, so I don't drink vodka or anything like that. I'm more of like a tequila girl, Jack Daniel's, like the darker drinks.
Yeah, whatever
Hennessy,
gets you messed up in the morning, yeah.
Yeah, Hennessy's a little strong for me, but you know, Jack Daniel's honey, I need some of that sweet in there, so that's my type of thing.
No, definitely, and I feel like even, you know, just in general, like growing up, going to parties and stuff like that, that's a drink that I've seen often, but like to you personally, why is this drink so representative of who you are?
Yeah, so to be honest, to be 100% honest, I started off with like Smirnoff, you know, like my first time ever drinking it, I was like 16 and drank Smirnoff, you know, and then I kind of just, for every drink that I've tried, it was just like I got too lit on that drink, and then it like traumatized me, and I ended up with PTSD, and I couldn't drink it anymore. So I was like, yo, what's the next drink? And then somehow I made my way up to Jack Daniel's honey, and then I think now my tolerance is a lot higher, so I don't get those blackout nights.
Okay, there you go.
So like I don't have PTSD yet, but you know, it's gonna get there one day.
Perfect. Just by the way that I see this interview going, we're definitely gonna have some fun.
Literally.
So listen, I'm just going to dive into some personal questions just to, you know what I mean? People might have seen your blog around the city or even your involvement with Narcity and the list that you've done, you know, in terms of, just as example, one of them were the slangs that people use in Ottawa and stuff like that. So we're going to definitely dive into this. But before we dive into that completely, I kind of want to get like, you know, I guess, an uncut version of who you really are as a person. Is that cool?
Yeah, no, definitely.
So, like, you know what I mean? How was your upbringing in the city, or just your upbringing in general? How did you grow up, like, to be the person that you are today?
Yeah, so I grew up. So my mom is Latina, so she's El Salvadorian. My dad is Black. He's from Guinea. But I grew up with my mom as, like, a single parent, and then I was an only child. So our bond was always really close, you know? But, like, the thing is that we kind of grew up. I know a lot of people say it's bad to be friends with your kids, but, yo, me and my mom, we're, like, girls. Like, that's the homie, you know what I mean? So, like, everything was always open with her. Like, she's always been mad supportive of anything I ever do. And, like, you know, I grew up in the south side of Ottawa. I grew up, like, speaking just English, like, English and Spanish.
South side.
And
Too
then,
many south side.
Yo, shout out to the south. I don't know how to do the S, south side.
She pulled out the sign. It's official.
Literally. But, yo, I remember in elementary school, it was like grade 6. All my friends were like, St. Pat's. That's where I'm going, St. Pat's. And my mom was like, hell to the no. We live in Ottawa. You're going to some French school. And I was like, bitch, what? I was like, huh? I was like, yo, I did immersion for like 3 years. Like, French is not my language. She was like, fuck it, you're going to learn. So homegirl threw me into a French school. And then, yo, through there, I kind of just learned a lot more. Because I was always around, like, the Lebs and stuff like that. So I learned a lot from them. And then, like, even just the Black people at my school were there. It was honestly, Franco was pretty much an immigrant school. I'm going to say that. There was a lot of white people, but it was definitely an immigrant school.
Like, you mean like a lot of ethnicities, different ethnicities and stuff
it was
like that?
very cultured, I guess is a better word to say. But through that, I learned a lot about, you know, different cultures and stuff like that. And I'm kind of happy she's through there. I know St. Pat's is also very cultured, but the French really helped me a lot now. So, like, in terms of getting jobs and, like,
but I mean,
like
just
that.
in Ottawa in general, like, it's more of a government city, but not even a government city, but, like, all the businesses that are kind of, you know what I mean? If you go to university, which is 90% of the kids we grew up with, really, having, like, a second language is kind of, like, you know, it climbs you to...
so much, like, legit, you don't understand, like, because honestly, I get bored a lot because I work for the government, I spend all my time looking on Indeed, like looking for jobs or like, and legit everything is bilingual required, like, you know, so it's like, geez. And then, so I'm really fortunate that my mom threw me into a French school. As much as I hated it in grade 9 or grade 7 when I first started, I was like, fuck this, I want to go back to English. I'm so grateful. And then like speaking Spanish, you know, it helps so much because like if I ever were to work in the States, I have Spanish, and that's their second official language. So I'm like, yo, I'm blessed in, you know, North America.
Yeah. So low-key, the fact that your mom wasn't allowing you to be friends on that level of things, you know, kind of became beneficial for you.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, you know, my mom, at the end of the day, she grew up in El Salvador. So
she's born there.
Yeah, like my mom is super, you know, she's super immigrant, you know. So she still has like her ways, like, you know, growing up, it was like, be home by this time. I'm driving you to movies. I'm picking you up. But it was still very open, you know what I mean? Like, I could talk to her about anything, you know, like, even now, like, she found weed in my fucking room the other day, and I was like, Mom, I don't smoke. It was like a gift for someone, too. That was the worst part, and I was like, Mom, I swear I don't smoke, and she's like, why did you share it with me? I was like, bitch.
What?
I know, she doesn't even smoke. I was like, you're such a troll. I was like, yo, anyways, you know?
But just, like, that in itself, you know, can you expand on that? The fact that, you know, you're biracial. And in the city, it's really common, you know what I mean? It's really common to be biracial just in general. But how did that influence you just in general as to who you are right now?
Yo, so growing up, like, I was always around my mom and her family. I never saw myself as Black. You know what I mean? Like, I was always speaking Spanish. Like, my whole family is Latino, you know what I mean? Like, I knew I was darker, but I never really saw myself as Black or anything like that. Once I hit high school, you know, you kind of see that a little bit more. Like, people are like, oh, you're Black, you're this, you're that, right? And then, to be honest, for myself, I was always, I had no problem telling people I'm half Spanish, I'm half Black. Like, that was never an issue. I was proud of both sides. I didn't know much about my African side, just because my dad lives in Spain. And, like, the conversations that we have are mostly, like, just catching up, right? But with my Spanish side, I know everything. You know, I've tried all Salvadorian dishes. I've been to El Salvador. I speak the language, you know? But then once I got to university, I took conflict studies. So I've always been really into basically just, like, human rights and things like that. So I took conflict studies, and through that, I learned how much, like, injustice there is in the world, especially towards the Black community. And then that kind of put me on to be like, yo, hold up a second, let me learn a little bit more about my Black side. And then through that, I've definitely been proud to say, like, yo, like, I'm Black, and, like, at the same time, I can still say, you know, I still rep my Spanish side, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, like, I've learned the difference between race, ethnicity, like, your background, your, like, all of that stuff.
Because, I mean, the first time I've met you, and, like, I know a lot of people, like, when they do interviews, they act like, oh, it's the first time I've seen you. But no, this is not the first time we've met before, you know what I mean? And, like, just in general, like, when I met you, I would have never guessed that you would have just, you know, grew up with one side of your family and stuff like that. So,
yeah, I'm definitely, not that Black people are ratchet, but I'm hella ratchet, you know what I mean? And I've always appreciated that. I can't lie, you know, I'm all about, you know, saving money.
But I mean, just even like Latinos and Blacks are just really similar in the culture, you know what I mean?
Very similar, yeah, definitely very similar. But, you know, a lot of times growing up, especially in high school, I had a lot of people be like, high school was where I learned what light skin versus dark skin meant. And I remember, like, you know, like hearing yellow bone and red bone. And I was like, what is this? Like, I was like, am I yellow? Like, I was like, am I red bone? Like, what is this? You know, I was like, light skin. Like, what is that? And then, you know, you start to see a lot of colorism come into play, and people be like, light skin girls, blah, blah. And I was like, I don't even see myself like that. Like, I'm not even that light. You know what I mean? Like, because, like, in the summer, I get really dark, and, like, that just never crossed my mind. And then, but even today, you know, like, you see, like, a lot of, like, when guys try to holler, be like, yo, light skin. And it's like, first of all.
Guys trying to holler? You might have to holler at your boyfriend real quick.
No, like, yo, when I go to Toronto and these guys from the States, because, you know, like, Caravana weekend, for example, you have all guys coming from the States and shit, and, like, if they ever try to holla, their main line is, like, yo, light skin. Or, like, I was in Mexico, and they were like, yo, it's like, these, like, old-ass men see me with my mom, and they were like, yo, are you from Brazil? Are you Dominican? Like, I was like, bitch, I was like, nah. I was like, not even, you know what I mean? But, you know, it helped me a lot. Like, it definitely helped me learn more about race, and, like, a lot of my articles that I write today, like, especially social justice, because that's basically where I started. Like, now I'm in communications, but that kind of helps me frame my social justice and kind of help me take a stance on that, especially when it comes on Twitter. Yo, I love Twitter. I live on Twitter. So when people beef me about race, I hit them back with the facts. You know what I mean? I'm like, I've tried to educate myself and surround myself with people that are also very aware of
like-minded, basically.
Basically, yeah.
But just in that sense, you know what I mean? The fact that you never grew up with like your black side of the family, but you were really always really in tune with that part of yourself.
Yeah.
Like, how hard or how easy was it for you to like kind of link back to that? You know what I mean?
Well, like, to be honest, it was a little bit hard, right? Because when I went to Franco Cité, I was like, it was just me. I don't have siblings. I'm an only child. I didn't have any friends there. And then, you know, the first friend I made there was a white girl. You know what I mean? And then, so like, I'm not going to say I grew up poor or anything like that, but she definitely grew up a lot more well off. So, you know, you go to her house, she has a nice ass house, nice cars. Her family is like, you know, they're well off, right? And then like I live in an apartment with my mom, you know, like our cars are never the 2017 like we're 2018, damn girl. It's not the 2018 brand new cars or anything like that. So, you know, I was definitely.
And that's the thing, like even me, like I can totally relate to your, even being fully black, I totally relate to that side of like, you know, that side that you're talking about, and being more, you know, having humble means, you know, and stuff like that. And it's funny, like growing up, I never felt like my mom ever, you know, made me feel like, you know, we were part of a different class or anything like that. I always had whatever I needed, and that's the thing, you know what I mean? So I don't know.
That's the thing, yeah. Like, growing up, you know, like, I was an only child, so I got spoiled. My whole family always spoiled me because I was, like, my mom's only child. I was a girl, you know what I mean? Like, it took my mom a while to get pregnant and stuff like that. So, you know, I was always been spoiled. I never saw myself as, like, poor or rich, you know? That never crossed my mind. Then once I hit high school, I was like, damn, like, especially even, like, when people started to get their license, I was like, you're 17, you're driving your own car to school. I was like, what the hell? I was like,
people driving Beamers to school. I was so shook, I swear to God. Yeah.
But then, you know, like, so one of my best friends, at first, we ended up beefing at first. Like, we hated each other at first. I'm going to say I hated her. You know, everyone knows Pamela. Pamela can't hate anyone. You know what I mean? So when I first met Pam, I didn't like her because I was like, yo, why is this girl so bubbly? She's always in my fucking face. I was like, girl, calm down, you know? But, you know, we became best friends, and then Pamela's super aware with, like, her black side and, like, just everything that has to do with black issues, like, with race and stuff. And she's definitely taught me a lot. She definitely helped me a lot. And she definitely, like, allowed me to kind of place myself in the black community while acknowledging the fact that I'm bicultured, right? So, or biracial, I should say. But, you know, so it was kind of just like that. And then, like, I realized, you know, a lot of the other people at my high school, I didn't really mesh with as well. But Pam and me, we just clicked, you know what I mean? I've noticed a lot growing up that I definitely click a lot better with people who are also, like, that are also, how do I put this? Not white, to put it simply. So it's definitely a lot easier. And then, you know, as I grew up, I made a lot of friends, a lot of networking, especially working for, like, websites like Affinity, you know? Like, I have, like, some really close friends that live in the States. They're all black. And, like, the thing is that the States, you wouldn't believe it, but it's so different from Canada. Like,
oh, yeah, 100%. I have family from all around the States. Yeah, no, it is. I agree, yeah.
And, you know, they're always telling me about, like, the shit that they encounter on the daily basis, like, just what it's like. And I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, damn, yo, like, it's so easy in Canada. Like, growing up, half my life, I didn't even know what race was. You know what I mean? For me, it was just, like, I'd look in the mirror and I was like, I think I'm
who I am.
Yeah, I think I'm black. I was like, okay, cool, go on with my day. But them, like one of my friends in the States, she wears a hijab, right? And she lives in, like, Florida, like, Hicktown, you know?
Yeah.
So for her, it's, like, race is, like, an everyday thing for her. And I'm like, yo, I can't really. And then I have another friend who lives in Texas, and her university is predominantly white. And it's like, girl, I don't know how you survive. I go to Carleton, it's literally, like, 90% Asians. Like, you know what I mean?
Ottawa just in itself is, like, one of the biggest melting pot in Canada, if not the world.
Yeah.
So, like, you know what I mean? And by the way, I have nothing wrong to say about Pamela, just in case her brother becomes prime minister. I love you.
What do you mean if Pamela becomes prime minister?
No,
we need more women in power, okay, Pam? I'm voting for you. I'm going to be your social media person. No, maybe not social media. I'll be your PR. I might get a little ratchet on social media, so I'll stick to PR.
But you raised an important point, you know what I mean? Just about the woman in power, and definitely what you've did in the past couple of years, if not, right? This is unheard of before, of someone in our class, you know, of age, being a woman. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is definitely unheard of. So, like, feminism, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've got, definitely from how you speak, I could tell that it's definitely...
Yeah, no, definitely. Like, because initially, yo, I'm going to be honest, like, a lot, not a long time ago, but like a while ago, I was definitely like not anti-feminism, but I was like, yo, what do you mean women have the same rights as men? I was like, why are women complaining so much? I was like, I was one of those. But then
university happens and then you educate yourself,
Yo, I became so much more educated, especially surrounding Black feminism, you know what I mean? Just like feminoir. Like that to me is so important because Black women are treated like, people don't see it like Black people, but Black women are treated like trash, right? And I'm saying that from a light skin perspective, you know. Imagine dark skinned women. So that definitely taught me a lot, and it's definitely something I think is extremely important.
And you're so aware of it. That's the thing. Like you're so aware of being light skinned, but you also have friends and stuff like that. So like being so aware of like Black issues and stuff like that, and being a woman, you know what I mean? I feel like you face that double standard type shit. It's
really hard. It's hard to get people to take you seriously. You know, like a lot of times, you think people are messaging you because they want to work with you. And then they try to holla and you're like, yo, first of all, I'm happily married. You know what I mean? I have my man who I love. But it's just like, like, I'm always down. I love working with people, you know what I mean? Like, I love working with artists, whether it's for, like, interviews or just segments or whatever. I love working with new people. But it's, like, that's why, like, even on my website, if you read my website, it says that, like, I just don't take bullshit. Like, I can't take people who aren't serious about their craft, you know? Right. So if you're an artist and you're serious about your music, don't try and holla at me. Work on, like, holla at me.
Be professional about it.
Holla at me because you want to put your music on a platform. Don't holla at me because, I want to put my music on your website, but also, like, what are you saying this Friday? You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that niggas try to holla at me all the time or anything like that, but it's just, like, I've definitely had those encounters.
Yeah.
And it's like,
But how do you, like, that being said, like, how do you navigate through this industry? Because, like, we could say a lot of people in power aren't as professional as could be. Like, look at Donald Trump. You know what I mean? Like, he's a president and he says some of the most, like, outrageous shit I've ever heard in my life. You know what I mean? So, like, you being a woman that's, like, biracial, but also so aware of, like, issues that you're part of. You know what I mean? How do you navigate through this industry?
It's really hard. Like, a lot of times I'll doubt myself and I'm like, can I ever really make it as far as a man would? Because, if you think of comedians, you look at the men, like Kevin Hart, you know what I mean? People are like, damn, he's so funny. Like Dave Chappelle, he's so funny, blah, blah, blah. A woman will go up there and try, and people are like, she's not funny. That wasn't funny. They dismiss her right away.
But the thing is it because she's a woman or is it because she's literally not funny?
Sometimes you have to take that into account. But then a lot of times, like, these women are actually funny. And they actually try really hard. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying every girl that tries is funny or whatever. You know what I mean? But it's like, I just find it so hard to get taken seriously. And, like, I don't want to talk about my writing and be like, I'm the best writer out there, blah, blah. But I do think I'm talented. You know what I mean? I do think that when someone hollers at me because they want an article written, I put my all into it. I try my hardest, like, I try to make it seem like a professional article and I try to highlight all their good things. Like, I do my research on my artists. So to have someone come up to me and, like, dismiss my ideas because I'm a woman or because I'm Black, that irritates the shit out of me, you know what I mean? And, like, I know all the negative stereotypes that are surrounding, Black people. Like, just, like, people say, like, we're lazy, we're uneducated, we're this, we're that. And it's like, nah, like, I've been grinding. Like, we
have the biggest percentage of graduates in Canada, actually. Right? Like, Black people just in general.
And it's like, honestly, like, from my mom, like, I've just learned to work so hard. Literally.
Whatever, I guess. Like,
but I've learned to work so hard, you know what I mean? And it's like, I had to do summer school, like literally 3 courses of summer school. And I was working full time at the same time. And then it was like, I never got a break. I just went straight back into school full time. I worked like 2 jobs, right? I worked for the government and I worked for TD. So I'm like constantly working. I have 5 courses. I'm trying to graduate. And it's like, you can't tell me I don't take my craft seriously just because I'm either A, Black, or B, a woman. You know what I mean? And, like, the thing is that a lot of times it gets to you, right? Like, I find myself oftentimes doubting myself because I'm like, can I really make it?
Right.
Like, you look around and it's like a lot of men are in power. You look at Matthew McConaughey or, like, some hot actor like Michael B. Jordan takes off his shirt, does a sexy pose in Calvin Klein.
Okay, that's not fair.
No one cares.
You can't say that.
Kim K does Calvin Klein.
Nah, you can't say that. You can't say that. I knew you were going to stand Kim K right now.
I have to stand my girl Kim K. Let me just say it. I'm a stand. I'm going to throw that in there.
How many women do we see right now in positions right now? Kim K is in power because of his sex tape.
No, she's not. Kim K has come so... Okay, the thing is, Paris Hilton, Farrah Abrams, freaking Pamela Anderson, they've all had sex tapes. Where are they now?
But
where's Kim K?
The thing is...
Number 4 followed on Instagram.
But the thing is, do they have Kris Jenner?
Yo, Kris Jenner. Honestly, if Kris Jenner is watching this, shout out to my girl. Yo, shout out Kris Jenner.
So, yeah, basically, I guess Kris Jenner, you know what I mean? Like, she was definitely an asset to them and stuff like that. But I can't negate the fact that all of the Kardashian work really hard to get what they have.
They do work really. Yo, the thing is, a lot of people downplay them just because of Kim's sex tape. But yo, as someone, like, I'm gonna admit, I'm a stan and I follow them very closely. Yo, I've seen all of them work on their businesses, like, have success and fails in their business. And yo, tell me how Kim K is able to sell a perfume, make $10 million in 4 days off a perfume that no one has ever smelled. You know what I mean? Like, all she did, and, like, the thing is, she didn't have marketing, no commercials, no ads. It was all her posting on social media.
She just dropped it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And she was like, this is coming out Valentine's Day, order it. You know what I mean? Made $10 million in 4 days. So it's like, yo, as much as anyone wants to hate on the Kardashians or the Jenners, they are
well
definitely women.
Yeah,
they're very powerful women in business, and they know their game. Like, they know their marketing game. They know what works, what doesn't. And, like, that's why I respect them so much. I know they've definitely done a lot of problematic things, you know, and I'll call them out for it.
Just a couple, you know.
I'll call them out for it, but I definitely, like, I definitely admire Kim in specific. Like, I like the rest of them, you know, whatever. But Kim in specific, I definitely admire her work ethic and, like, just her business skills. A lot of people will be like, nah, she has a team behind her. And I'm like,
for sure, yeah.
Yo, you can't tell anyone can have a team behind them. You know what I mean? Like, how did she choose those specific people you know? So it's like, but
she has the skill. She definitely knows what she's doing. And, if you're watching this, please, Kris Jenner, call me. I need a manager.
Kim, follow me on Twitter. Holla at me. Introduce me to Kanye. Introduce me to the kids. You know, the whole game.
But talking about the devil, you know what I mean? Like, just businesses in general. You know, you definitely, in terms of how the city is bubbling up and, you know, how we're coming up just as a collective of people, creatives, just doing things, you know what I mean? You're definitely at the front cheers in terms of accolades and stuff like that. Just, if you wouldn't mind naming a couple of them, you know, just, I mean?
Like, of my, like, favorite people in Ottawa, basically? Or
I mean, the people you've worked with.
People I've worked with. Yo, so I've definitely, so most recently, for example, I've worked with Just Sannon. We did an interview with him. You know, I'm working on something with Omari Mids. I've worked with Breakout Squad before, or I've worked with them before. I'm going to work with them again. You know, People Nightclub. I've worked with
Narcity, right, too?
Yeah, I worked at Narcity. So I worked for Affinity and Mogul, but those are in the States. I've worked with Dolled by Luna, so she's a makeup artist.
Really well known too.
Yeah, I've worked with DJ Port, so that's Jomo Port. I worked with Jesse Pasco, and then I worked with Force Academy, so Daniel Cassia. And then I worked with
you're flexing too much. I'm gonna need you to chill.
You know, I worked with a couple of people.
I'm gonna need you to chill. I'm calling the cops right now. Yeah, this is unacceptable.
I've definitely worked with a couple people in Ottawa. But yo, it's because Ottawa has so many talented people, and like I want to fit all of them in. You know what I mean? I want to work with all of them.
And I feel the same way. I feel like as a city, we're so talented. We have so many people, you know, doing things that, like, if we were to, like, stick together, even if someone was to come invest, they would have to invest into the whole thing just because we're so tightly knitted.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
The thing is, like, working for a platform that tries to put Ottawa on, you learn so much about the city, and you realize, like, yo, a lot of people hate on a lot of people, and I won't lie, like, I've definitely been in my situations where I've been, like, hating on other people, and I'm like...
You've heard of anything?
yo, listen, no tea, no shade, you know? But, you know, a lot of people hate on a lot of people, and, you know, I understand where it comes from. Like, we're in a city that's basically ran by, like, you know, the people at the top, and I'm talking about, like, mayor status, like, government level, they want to continue to have Ottawa as kind of that boring government city. You know, they'll have their festivals, they'll have their Blues Fest where they'll bring out Migos or Ray Shmurda or whoever, but at the end of the day, the way they want to keep it is, you know, peaceful. A little suburban, peaceful town. They don't want it to be the next Toronto. They don't want, you know, to have traffic jams for like 10 hours straight, because this is the type of city where you go to grow a family, and then that's what becomes frustrating, right? Because artists can't really grow, because it's like you're not going to start a riot like the same way, like the way Migos did again. You know what I mean? That was like the one mistake Blues Fest made, and then that's never going to happen again. So that's
You say that, but then Blues Fest is looking for profits just in general, and they shed light on the fact that hip hop is the number one.
That's the problem.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, like that's the thing. Like this lineup that came out pissed me off so much because yo, we're in it, and it's just like it's not even just Blues Fest, but it's like yo, we're in an era right now where hip hop is at the forefront. I don't care what anyone says. Hip hop is the new rock and roll, and I know I went on Twitter about this recently, and I was like, yo, hip hop is the new rock and roll. You can't tell me otherwise. Like it is what it is. When white people listen to hip hop, Asians look at Rich Chigga, right? Homeboy's Asian rapping, you know. Look at Honey Cocaine.
Yeah.
You look at De La Ghetto. You look up D Pride. These are all Asians rapping. You know what I mean? You have white people rapping. You have obviously black people rapping. You have Latinos rapping. You know what I mean? Hip hop is the number one genre of music right now. So if you tell me otherwise, you're wrong. It's just like that's not me being
the sales are
opinionated.
It. The sales are proving it.
Yo, fucking Culture 2, 1 billion streams in I think it was like
3
20
weeks?
days or something.
Yeah.
1 billion streams. You're gonna tell me hip hop is not at the forefront of the music game right now? So it's like, how are you gonna present me like a freaking, what is it called? How are you gonna give me the list for Blues Fest and tell me that the only like hip hop artists on there are Ray Shmurda? You know what I mean? Like this is literally
no,
the people.
you can't say that they're the only one.
There's like other
but they're
ones.
the only one at the forefront.
Yeah,
I do agree
you know
with
what
that.
I mean?
I do
Like
agree
the
with
only
that,
ones that are like
popping right now.
Right now. Like there are a couple other hip hop acts, but it's like, yo, who's listening to Shaggy in 2018? You know, like what the fuck? The only song I know by Shaggy is what's that fucking song? It Wasn't Me. Like what the fuck? I listened to that on Magic 100. Girl, I only listen to Magic 100 when there are ads on Hot 89.9 and Jump 106.9. So miss me with that shit, okay? Bring me my Cardi B. And like I understand, okay? Not everyone wants Cardi B.
No, but for the artists that they brought, now I see what you mean.
Where's Kendrick Lamar? Kendrick Lamar had a huge year.
But he came a couple years ago.
Yo, bring him back.
Right. No, you're right.
It's a different year. Right. Bring him back.
No, and I was gonna say that, like, cause me, I thought that in terms of the lineup, they would bring people that are more relevant or more sustainable than Cardi B. But they totally went backwards.
When's the last time Ray Shmurda dropped a track? Okay, don't tell me Unforgettable, because that was Sway Lee, first of all. Yeah. What's his face? I don't even know the other guy's name.
He has a song with Gucci Mane. That's killing the church right now, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, well.
Stunt like me. Yeah. Stunt like me, yeah.
But, like, yo, it's just, like, I like, yo, no hate to Ray Shmurda, but, like, yo, let me just tell you. So, when I was at the Weeknd concert, okay, it was at the Scotiabank Center, so you know it was all white folk. No hate to white folk, but I'm just saying, it was all white folk.
It was predominantly them, yeah.
And, yo, legit, when they performed No Type, what is it, Flexin', whatever, like, their songs, no one in the crowd sang. Like, it was so awkward. It was, like, me and my girl, AJ, so she's, like, Asian, right? It was just us two. We're, like, the only ones that knew the lyrics to the songs. And, like, you know how Blues Fest gets? Did you see that meme on Twitter where it was, like, that girl in the crowd and she's, like, looking around?
Yeah.
That's literally going to be me at Blues Fest. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's, like, you know, like, I just don't understand why they didn't bring more hip-hop acts to Blues Fest.
And Brockhampton is, you know what I mean? They have acts like Brockhampton but they're not at the forefront of hip hop right now. You know I do agree with you on that.
I think that if you want to put Ottawa on another level, you need to have lineups like the ones that Veld do. If you took a look at Veld last year, they had some They had some crazy acts last year. You know, I do not understand how they got Migos to come to Ottawa last year. But that was crazy. That was amazing. They got Lil Yachty to come. Yeah. And then the thing is, too, like, I saw a couple Ottawa artists that were on the Blues Fest lineup, but they didn't have anyone. Like, yo, I'm so glad that they brought Maurice and Lavelle last year. But, like, yo, it's a new year. Bring out more artists. You know what I mean? Like, if you're going to be Blues Fest, you're going to be focused on Ottawa, bring out more artists in the city. You know what I mean? And I feel like they just lacked on that. Yeah. And it's disappointing.
And off of what, you know what I mean? I know we had this argument on Twitter as to why they like maybe shouldn't bring Cardi B, you know what I mean? Because I definitely had bigger expectations for this lineup because of last year. So, you know, in front of the camera, I'm humbling myself as the humble host. And I apologize.
Zooms into your face, sad music. The thing is, like, I totally understand where you're coming, you know? Like, the thing is, when I say Ottawa is whack, I don't mean Ottawa is whack. Like, I don't mean the artists here are whack. I don't mean the culture here is whack. I mean the people at the forefront of the city are whack. You know, like, our mayor, our government levels, the people in charge of Blues Fest, y'all are whack, okay? Like, I'm gonna say it straight up, y'all are whack. Like, you know, I'm not saying you have to bring Cardi B, but who's it? Like, no disrespect to Nicki Minaj, but who's the number one female rapper right now? Like, who's dropping hit after hit after hit? Who's been on the Billboard's 100 in the top 10 with, like, 4 songs on there?
But no projects.
I know.
Meaning, can you keep people's attention?
Yo, I want her albums to come out. But the thing is, Cardi had hits like Red Bars.
That was crazy. That's
my favorite Cardi song. And no one knows it. And I'm like, yo, Cardi, put that shit on Apple Music. Why is it just on YouTube?
Even just off those YouTube streams, I'm pretty sure she made crazy amount of money.
The thing is, she drops it on like World Star. She doesn't even drop it on her own channel. And I'm like, yo, Cardi. Like, the thing is, people doubt Cardi because she was a stripper. She was this, she was that. But I'm like, yo, Cardi.
She definitely proved herself.
You
have
the skills, like you're good, so it's like, go off, bitch, go off, and like they didn't have to bring her, but like you could have brought Kendrick, you could have brought SZA, like even Lil Pump, freaking Lil Pump, like I don't even talk about Pump that much, but when Gucci Gang comes in on the club, who's going off on freaking Snapchat, who's going off, I'm going off, so it's like, you could have brought Lil Pump, you would have seen, and like the thing is, a lot of people like. People will be like, yo, Blues Fest isn't a hip-hop festival, it's blues. Or like, what do you mean? Like,
but majority of acts aren't even
and
blues.
Are like, right? And like this one guy, I remember he commented on one of my articles because I was like, hip-hop, like the Blues Fest lineup is trash. And he was like, well, I'm not surprised that it's not hip-hop because it's Blues Fest. I was like, girl, what is Shawn Mendes doing there? You know what I mean? I was like, what is Jessie Reyez doing there? I was like, these are not blues artists. And then it's like, I don't know. It's just like you have a lot of old white people hating on young black kids because they're like, oh, they always start riots. They just do drugs. They're underage drinking. They're doing this. And they're like, that's only at the hip hop things. And I'm like, nah. I'm like, you'll see that at Rockfest. You'll see that. People are doing acid at Rockfest. What? You're mad because someone's smoking weed? Like, it's not the end of the world.
And that's about to be legalized, but that's another conversation.
That's another. Yo, tell me how I was working on my government job and we had a meeting and like one of the girls there was like, what do you guys think about the legalization of weed? And I was like, I'm like the only 21-year-old there. Everyone else is like 30 and plus. And I was like, I was like,
what's weed?
Yeah, I was like, have I ever tried weed? Nope. I was like, are you going to do a drug test? Nope. No. So it's like, yo, that's a problem with Ottawa is there's a lot of older people. And I think that in order to make this, the thing is, I've heard the term Ottawa is Toronto 10 years ago. And I think that we're going to be stuck that way until we have different people in charge of the city. And that's what I mean. Like, I don't think Ottawa's whack. I love the city. Like, when I got out of
we don't even need different people. I just feel like maybe if they were more inclusive in terms of what's really happening inside of the city.
And I think it's, like, our job. Like, people who are in the media, like yourself, myself, like, people like us, I think it's our job to talk to those people and, like, in ways that we can and be like, yo, like, the black youth in the city, we're not.
But it's not even just black youth. Even like
it's everyone.
I remember like 2 years ago I went to Future, and like like the black youth and everything. Yeah, true. But like a majority of those kids that were in the crowds were white. You know what I mean? It's like
white people like hip hop. Let me ask you, the cameraman. You like hip hop, right? That's a nod for anyone wondering. That's a yes. You know what I mean? And it's like, yo, like as much as Shawn Mendes is at the top right now. Those are going to be 14, 15, 16-year-olds. What about people who are 21, 22, 23, 24?
That actually pay for tickets. We pay for tickets.
You know what I mean?
We pay for clubs.
We pay for the full price, that $199, whatever it is. We pay full price. So it's like, yo, if I'm asking for Cardi B or Lil Pump or whoever, yo, I'm asking for them. And it's like, yo, you can tell me that Lil Pump is trash. But yo, his music bangs. I'm sorry, like 6ix9ine, the music bangs. Like, I want to go get lit. I'm not going to Blues Fest to go sing along to every Shawn Mendes lyric and listen to talent.
Very true.
I'm going there because I want to go get lit. And then once I'm done, I want to go to People Nightclub and, continue my lituation.
That was a beautiful plug-in. You know what I mean? We will definitely cut that out.
Shout out to Knox.
We are not getting paid for this.
Shout out Narcity. What is it? No free sponsorships. No free sponsorships.
So definitely, you know what I mean?
Sorry, private property. My bad. Private property.
You know what I mean? And we definitely brought a lot of things that have a certain platform to attract people, you know what I mean? But just, you as yourself, you've definitely done things in the city that are maybe not unheard of, but like in our age group, especially for a girl, not to like, pick you out, but as a girl, you know what I mean? It's definitely incredible and it's definitely worth mentioning.
Well, thank you.
So, you know what I mean? Just if you could expand maybe a bit on the platform that you kind of talked about earlier, how did that come about?
Yo, so to be honest, so Cityinthree started because basically I was working for Mogul. I was working for Affinity. Literally, I'm like slurring. But I was working for Mogul and Affinity. And like, Affinity, I was told to work there because it's more of like a teens, 14 type of thing. And I was turning 21. So I was like, it's not my scene anymore,
Mm-hmm.
All love to the girl, like to the woman in charge. So Evelyn, shout outs to you.
Mm-hmm.
But I was just too old to work there, like this is a lot of teen perspectives. Mm-hmm. And then Mogul just wasn't really my vibe, you know what I mean? Like I was still in charge of my own kind of hub, but it just wasn't the same. So I was like, I want to start my own thing where it's kind of like everyone on my website, like all the writers are allowed to be as transparent as they want. They can talk about whatever they want. And it's like when readers read their things, it's like, I know this girl. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I was like, that's what I want to start. And then I was like, Ottawa needs something that's going to put people on. Like it's been there before, but there's no website. Like you look at Narcity, they're not interviewing artists. Mm-hmm. They're not talking to artists or highlighting artists. Like maybe they'll do like 40 Ottawa girls you need to follow on Instagram, but they're not doing anything that's specific. So I was like, I kind of want to start that, I'll have my section for Ottawa, and then I'll have my section for like real world social justice, like that type of stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And then I started it, and it was hard at the beginning because I was like, what the fuck am I doing? I don't know anything about web design. I'm in communication.
And that's a lot about that happens a lot for people just starting business in general, you know what I mean? Like you have a specific idea, but to kind of like learn how to attack the subject, you have to broaden your horizons and stuff like that. So,
it was definitely really hard because it's like, I don't do web design. I don't know how to design logos. A lot
comes into it.
You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, how am I going to sit down and do this? And, it's hard to find someone who wants to do it with you. So I found that a lot of time it was just me doing it. And, like, I was in charge of everything. To put it simply, like, it was me running everything. But to the point where it's gotten now, I'm, like, super proud of it. And I'm not saying it's at the best that it can be, but it's definitely come a long way. And, like, I'm so proud of my writers. Like, they're really all amazing people. They're all very talented. They all have really great ideas. Yeah. And, at the end of the day, I kept my platform how I wanted it to be, They're all writing, like, I'll have one writer write about, like, sex and, like, what not to do after sex, and then I'll have another writer who's writing about, like, Native people in Canada and how they're treated, and then I'll have another person writing about, like, these are Ottawa artists that you should follow, or these are Ottawa podcasts, or these are this, that, whatever, right, that you should follow, and it's, like, I have everything that I ever wanted put into one place, and, like, it's hard. It's definitely hard, but it's definitely worth it, I find. And I'm glad that I started it, and I'm glad that, Affinity and Mogul didn't work out so that I could have, my little baby.
I mean, yeah, I feel like simply. That's that happens a lot, you know what I mean? Like, when you've ran your course with something that's a bit more established, to change the status quo, you would have to be there for, like, 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, you know exactly. I mean? So, like, even working for Narcity, so I was there for about 4 months because it was just an internship. And, like, as much as I loved it, you know what I mean? Like, it was nice to learn the ropes. It was nice to work with the people that I did. But it was just, like, for them, it's definitely a lot more quality over quantity. And for them, it's not, like, I can't write about social justice with them. I can't interview an artist with them. I can't, like, shout anyone out without it being a sponsored content. You know what I mean? So it's, like, with my own website, I, like, run the rules. If someone wants to hit me up for a sponsored post, that's its own lane. But, like, if I want to talk about, sip to the script, I can, and it's not considered something paid where I have to advertise it, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's definitely nice to be in charge of my own thing. And then, like, even with my writers, I have a little feedback form where they can tell me what they want to change anonymously. So that way it's not like I'm just in charge of everything and I don't get any feedback. Like, they can tell me their concerns and it's all anonymous. So anything they tell me, I can implement, change, whatever. And then I think that makes it a lot easier because it's like open conversation. Of course, yeah. And without confrontation.
And that's a problem that we had in the city for a very long time, you know what I mean? Just being able to be who we are as creatives without, like, expecting people's backlash. And I feel like this year, like, 2000, like mid-beginning 2017... to, like, 2018 and ongoing, like, I feel like creators are way more comfortable coming out and being who they are. You know what I mean?
Backlash is scary. That's the thing. Backlash, like, even just posting a picture on Instagram, it's like, yo, will I get enough likes? Like, will people hate? Will people, like, screenshot their sentence of someone? You know, like, what are the comments going to say? Like,
I've definitely done that a couple times.
You know, like, my boyfriend has, like, almost 10,000 followers, right? Like, he has a following, you know? And, like, he posted a picture of us for Valentine's Day, and I was, like, reading the comments. I was like, is anyone going to hate? Like, you know, like, backlash is definitely scary, and I'm, like, always scared someone's going to say something bad about my website. But at the same time, I like to welcome, like, comments. Like, I know Daniel, like, so, like, the Force Academy, he, like, messaged me. Shout out D-Wade. I love Daniel, okay? Yeah. Daniel is, like, the realest person I've ever met, you know? Yeah. He'll message me and he'll be like, yo, add this to your website, or, like, change this, do this. And I'm like, yo, that's such a good idea. I never thought of that. You know what I mean? Like, I had a meeting.
He just released a book, too. Yeah. Like, it's doing super good.
No, I'm so proud of Daniel. Like, to see where he started. I remember when he first started to now, and I'm like, yo, shout out Daniel, you know? Like, I even interviewed him, and it's just, like, he's such a humble person. Like, at the end of the day, he's extremely humble. I'll be like, Daniel, you're the best trainer I've ever had. And he's like, no. He's like, don't say that. I'm like, shut up. I'm like, yo, accept the compliment. See,
you can tell him to shut up because you're a girl. I'm kind of scared to tell him to shut up. He would definitely body me.
Mad Daniel scares me, you know? I'm like, I don't want to deal with Mad Daniel. Like, no. So I try to stay on Daniel's good terms, but, you know, like, it's just like, I don't know. I think being humble in this game is definitely, I literally totally 100% forgot what we were talking about because I just got really lit, but you know, so I don't know why.
Shout out Jack Daniel.
I don't know why I mentioned being humble, but yeah.
Pretty much, yeah, no,
whatever we're talking about.
Like with the platform that you have right now and the things that you know what I mean, you've already achieved and stuff like that to the point where you are right now. Like, where do you see yourself going with it? Because, like, honestly, I definitely see that it has a certain impact on the city, but, like, there's always better work to be done. You know what I mean? So where would you want to take the platform?
I want to turn it into a media company. So I don't want to just keep it as, like, a website. I want to turn it into a media company, and I want to go worldwide. The one thing I want to always have an effect is that it started in Ottawa for Ottawa. That's the one thing. Like, regardless, if I'm in LA, I want it to be in Ottawa for Ottawa, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, like, as it grows, I want it to be something where, like, if I'm in Dallas, I can go to the Dallas hub and I can see what's going on, or I could click worldwide and I could see what's going on in the world, you know what I mean? So I want to grow it to that level, but I also, like, we recently implemented, like, videos, right? So I want that to grow because I think videos definitely attract a lot more people, but I basically want to just turn it into a media company and, you know, just run things from a media side, because as much as I love blogging, I definitely really like, you know, video production and, you know, video editing and things like that. So we'll see where it goes. Like, you know, right now I'm trying to graduate university. So
baby steps.
Literally, you know, baby steps. Right now it's still in the baby steps, but, you know, I'm trying to grow our following, you know what I mean? Like, definitely grow our following, definitely become a little bit more established, just because, you know, it's hard. Like, running social media is hard. You know, like, social media is definitely... It's a 24-hour thing. Yeah, it's definitely a game. It's hard. So definitely build our following, and then, you know, talk to more people in the city. Like, once I graduate, I want to get, you know, like, a full-time job, doing whatever, but then I want this to be, like, my like, main side hustle, you know? So, like, talking to different artists, getting them on the site, you know, I'm working on things with, I can't say too much, but I'm definitely working on something with a local videographer. We want to work on something huge for the city, so we'll see how that goes. Hopefully that can bring us some more, like, attention, and then, you know, I've definitely been thinking about, like, the influencers in the city. So it's not, there are a lot, so it's hard to choose just specific ones. But, you know, I'm definitely thinking of things to do with them where it's, like, bringing everyone together. But, yo, it's on the baby steps. I need to graduate first, get that shit out of the way so I'm not dealing with that shit full time. You know, like, quit one of my jobs. Yeah, for sure. And then, you know, like, I can focus on that. But it's definitely, like, Cityinthree is definitely something I want to take seriously and keep it growing. We'll just see where it ends up in 5 years. You know, hopefully I'm cake, and hopefully I'm, you know, the next Kim K, but, you know.
No, we'll for sure. And then just in terms of that vision, you know what I mean? Like, you definitely have a, you know, a clear pathway of where you want to take this. But, like, at this very moment right now, where do you see yourself going with it? Where do you see yourself in that vision at this very moment?
I definitely see myself always being a part of it, you know what I mean? So, like, I know eventually sometimes you have investors, or you have this, or you have that, and then you quit. I don't ever want to be there. I always want to be involved in it, you know what I mean? Like, I love working with my writers, like, whether it's from, like, a management perspective or just like the editorial perspective, or just like the like being in the background of the website perspective, I always want to be involved somehow. So we'll see like where I end up, but I definitely always want to be a part of it. Like I don't want to just sell it one day and have nothing to do with it. I always want to be a part of it. And like even if I'm just a writer, you know what I mean? But for the meantime, you know, I'm definitely running everything on my own. You know, editing everything, trying to get, like, artists in, trying to do the videotaping, all of that stuff. I've been working with, like, EK Visions and Lens Studios, but, like...
Shout out, because he's been putting in a lot of work.
Definitely. So, but a lot of it has definitely been on my own, but, you know, it's definitely... It's worth it at the end of the day. So, like, once you have the video out and it's edited and everything, you know, you look back at it and you're like, damn. You know, it was hard work, but it's here and it's nice and I like it. Or, like, at the end of an article, I'm like, shit, shout outs to me. You know? So it's like, but we'll see. Yeah,
for sure. And just to kind of finish off this interview, I wish I could, you know, do this even longer with you because I feel like you have so much insight in where we are right now. We're kind of doing the same thing, but in different realms. And, like, I feel like we do have the same insight in the city, you know what I mean? But just in terms of everything that you've said, and I know you mentioned a couple of them, but, like, who are some of the creators in the city that are creating their own waves that are caught your attention?
Well, you know, obviously I have to shout out my man, Omar Mids.
Jeez!
He's definitely, the thing is that he definitely, even though he's from Toronto, he puts on so much for the city. Like, I know this sounds super biased, but he's very humble. So I 100% respect his work ethic. I also have to shout out, you know, OMC. You know, I see them putting a lot of work. I love Nathan. His
Nathan music, Solomon?
Crazy. His music is crazy. Yo, Jamie Fine. I fucking love her. V, I love her. Yo, like, even people like Henna by Solange.
Yeah.
Love her. You know what I mean?
I went to high school with her, actually. That's crazy.
You went to Sammy G?
Yeah, I went to Sammy G. Yo, yeah. Why are you putting up my school?
Literally. No, but yeah, I fuck with her heavy. But, you know, there's definitely a lot of artists in the city. Almost too many to name. But, like, I think everyone in the city is definitely doing something that's very unique, and especially for Ottawa. So, you know, shout outs to everyone, basically. Especially Daniel. I know I already shouted him out, but, you know, I'm going to repeat it.
He's putting in a lot of work. Yeah. No, but listen, Fatima, I want to thank you.
No, thank you.
SealNation.
Yeah, thank you.
For coming through and, like, having this interview with us, because I feel like a lot of what was said during this interview for the, you know, the basic person that just watches every day, or just the, you know what I mean, just the normal follower that we have every day, it's important to have that insight because, you know what I mean, it definitely broadens our horizons, you know what I mean, to kind of see what's happening in the city. So I want to thank you for coming through.
Thank you.
And, you know, this is Sip to the Script, so you have to, you know, chug the rest of your drink.
Chug it, bitch, I'm about to pee my pants, what the hell? I'm like, oh, let me take a fake sip. Nah, thank you. Honestly, I have so much respect for EE Media. Like, I see you guys putting in work. I see you guys at events that I go to. You guys have your media passes and everything. So shout out to y'all. Thank you guys so much for having me. It was definitely, you know, I'm humbled. To put it simply, I'm humbled. So thank you so much.
No, for sure. And this was Young Sika. Another interview under the belt. See you next time.